Okay, hello. How strange is this, right? This is very interesting. I was just blocked. I was just blocked from Facebook from doing a live. So I was going too fast. You're temporarily blocked from this feature. We're going to try to find a way around this. Let's see if it will let me post this as a video. We have such a great message here in 1 Kings about Prophet Elijah. So I would love to share that with you while it's still fresh. As I'm filming on my computer, I cannot look at my reading from my screen. So let's see if I can pull it up here on my phone. Thank goodness for Google Docs. Given that I have the app downloaded. Should have probably done this before. How strange. Anyways, we will prevail as always. I'm going to start out with a quote from 1 Kings that is going to align perfectly with what we're talking about. And it reads, "The son himself cannot forget his fellow traveler." This is from On Sir Francis Drake, Wit's Recreations, 1640, Epigrams, number 146. And of course it says where this is coming from, but it always says anonymous as well. I'm not sure why exactly it does that. But anyways, the son himself cannot forget his fellow traveler. So there's a moment in here where Obadiah, who is a believer, recognizes Prophet Elijah. And he is really starstruck when he sees Elijah, right? He will not forget. He does not forget what he looks like, and he recognizes him on a path, right? So they're traveling together, and let's just go ahead and read and find out. Anyways, great quote to go along with this. We're going to begin with in 1 Kings, we're going to go over chapter 17. It says here, "Now Elijah the Tishbite from Tishbe in Gilead said to Ahab, 'As the Lord, the God of Israel lives, whom I serve, there will be neither dew nor rain in the next few years, except at my word.'" So just to give a little background once again, you can review the last video. Ahab was the next king of Israel, right? He was more evil and more dastardly than all the ones before. He was causing a lot of issues within Israel. So the Lord commands through Elijah that there will be no rain. And what no rain means is famine, right? If you don't have rain to grow crops, there will also be a famine in the land. It says here, "Sometime later the brook dried up because there had been no rain in the land, just as Prophet Elijah had said. Then the word of the Lord came to him, 'Go at once to Zarephath in the region of Sidon and stay there. I have directed a widow there to supply you with food.'" So Israel's really going through hard times. After the brook dries up, it's very clear to everybody that, we're in a serious drought. People are starving, right? It's a lot of a problem. Elijah is taken by the Lord to a bit of a safe house, also to get away from the wrath of Ahab. Ahab, of course, wants to destroy him, as Elijah is the last prophet of the Lord, or one of the last prophets of the Lord that Ahab cannot get his hands on. He has been seeking out everybody else and trying to destroy them. So it's kind of a safe house, right? It says here, "Sometime later, the son of the woman who owned the house became ill. He grew worse and worse and finally stopped breathing. So Elijah is a guest in this woman's house. He takes her in. She's a little hesitant at first because she's like, I barely have enough food to feed myself and my son. How is this going to work? But Elijah does perform a few miracles and makes sure that she never runs out of food or water, grain or water. She has a never-ending supply. Okay, you guys. Anyways, her son grows ill, and now she feels great, right? This prophet comes and he's bringing curses upon my family. He's causing me to recognize my own sin. Why is this happening, right? I thought I was doing a good thing for this prophet. It says here, the Lord, and then Elijah, of course, is like, Lord, help me out here. I need to go ahead and get out of this. Please help heal her son." So the Lord hears Elijah's cry, and the boy's life returned to him, and he lived. So this is a moment here where Elijah does raise somebody from the dead. Okay, eventually the boy stops breathing, so he dies. He takes the boy up to the top room. He lays him on a place like a bedding, and he prays over him and prays to the Lord, and thus his life was restored. So this is a great miracle. I want to say it's one of the first times that we actually talk about resurrection when it's not in the gospel with Lazarus or anything like that. This is the first time we talk about resurrection in the Old Testament. Correct me if I'm mistaken, but I'm pretty sure. Okay. Anyways, we have a great miracle of resurrection. Then the woman said to Elijah, "Now I know that you are a man of God, and the word of the Lord from your mouth is the truth." So this is also a beautiful moment. She recognizes Elijah as a man of God and says, "You are a man of truth." And when we think about the Spirit of truth later in the gospel and things like that, we think of the Holy Spirit. So I'm not saying that there are ties to Elijah and the Holy Spirit, but there just might be, okay? He is very much a powerful prophet. So let's go ahead and think here. It says, "After a long time, in the 3rd year, the word of the Lord came to Elijah." It says, "Go and present yourself to Ahab. I will send rain on the land." Now the famine was severe in Samaria, and Ahab had summoned Obadiah, his palace administrator. Obadiah was a devout believer in the Lord. As Obadiah was walking along, Elijah met him. Obadiah recognized him and bowed down to the ground and said, "Is it really you, my lord Elijah?" So Obadiah, as we read in this quote here, the son himself cannot forget his fellow traveler. He immediately recognizes Elijah and gives him devout attention, right? He bows down. He really recognizes him as a man of power and a man of stature. So that's very an honorable moment there. Anyways, it's hard to read on this. I'm sorry that you troubled Israel. Okay. So Obadiah went to meet Ahab and told him, and Ahab went to meet Elijah. So Obadiah is the bridge between Elijah and Ahab. Okay. Elijah. When he saw Elijah, Ahab, he said to him, "Is that you, troubler of Israel?" Elijah's taken aback. He's like, "I have not made trouble for Israel," Elijah replied, "but you and your father's family have. You abandoned the Lord's commands and followed the Baals." So he's condemning Ahab in this moment. He's condemning Ahab. He's being very strict with him. I mean, it's kind of interesting for Ahab to say troubler of Israel when Ahab himself is causing all the problems, okay? So he gathers everybody together. Not Ahab, but Elijah gathers everybody together. He speaks upon the people. Elijah said to the prophets of Baal, "Choose one of the bulls and prepare it first, since there are so many of you. Call on the name of your God, but do not light the fire." So they do this, right? And they call from morning to noon, just calling on the name. Around noon, they get a little lazy, right? But not so lazy. They actually start dancing and just kind of being jovial. You know, this pisses Elijah off. He's like, really? Like, you see that nothing is happening and you're going to still dance to Baal and, be jovial about this? So at noon, Elijah began to taunt them. He's like, shout louder, he said. Surely he is a god. Perhaps he is deep in thought, or busy, or traveling. Maybe he is sleeping and must be awakened. So this is a funny moment because the heretics will actually say of the God of Israel, right, of the God of the Bible, they'll say, oh, well, why is God, right, if he's so great and powerful, why is he assigned human emotions? we've talked about this before, right? God is very close to our hearts, as I have mentioned, right? He can understand and he can feel just as we understand and feel, right? Yes, he is all-powerful. Yes, he is all-knowing. But he can still feel just as we feel. That is the likeness at which we are created from God. That's what, if you don't mind me saying, makes us so powerful and so unique and children of God, is because we also have these same thought processes and emotions. But the interesting part here is these are human attributes, what Elijah describes of Baal, right? These are very humanly things. It says deep in thought, or busy, or traveling, sleeping maybe. Those are human attributes, okay? We should not mistake these really physical human attributes with that of, emotion or something that God might feel, actually, okay? It says here, then Elijah said to the people, "Come here to me." They came to him, and he repaired the altar of the Lord, which had been torn down. "Answer me, Lord." Put a moment here. He takes time, right? He speaks to the people, he tells them about the 12 tribes of Israel and how everybody should be united. He gathers 12 rocks, right? And then he begins to pray to the Lord. He says, "Answer me, Lord. Lord, answer me, so these people will know that you, Lord, are God, and that you are turning their hearts back again." And notice here, it doesn't say how specifically the prophets of Baal called out to Baal, right? But it does imply that they were shouting, right? They were shouting like this Baal was so distant from them and so far away. With the Lord, there's no need to shout. Like we mentioned, he is close to your heart. You just talk to him like he's right there and he's present at all times, omnipotent and omnipresent, okay? So he talks to him like he's there, right? Then the fire of the Lord fell and burned up the sacrifice, the wood, the stones, and the soil, and also licked up the water in the trench. Okay, so some may say this was like a strike of lightning, right? Something kind of similar to that. But due to the fact that this was soaking up water, right, that was from the trench, he had set up the rocks, the 12 rocks. He had also instructed the prophets of Baal to bring him water to pour it into a trench that he had created. Anyways, the fact that this fire could absorb water like that without going out, right, lighting the wood, lighting the cow offering, the sacrifice, it was unlike any lightning, right, or any fire that could start from a lightning strike. So it was truly a special fire from God, right, from the heavens. So it says, when all the people saw this, they fell prostrated and cried, "The Lord, he is God. The Lord, he is God." So that was an amazing moment, because the ones who were the disbelievers, who had the other gods to look to, they are the ones who fell to the ground, prostrated and admitted in humility. It says, meanwhile, the sky grew black with clouds, the wind rose, and heavy rain started falling, and Ahab rode off to Jezreel. So this is beautiful, because the rain comes. After a long famine, after a long drought, the rain finally comes. So we're going to see what happens after this. That's all I have for this section, but we have a few different miracles that puts Elijah at a place of status, at a place of trustworthiness, and beyond that, right? All right, well, I appreciate you guys listening. I will catch you very later. Hopefully this video will upload, but I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.